Welcome back, everyone. This is Rookie Mistakes. I'm Ethan.
I'm Jeremy. Rookie Mistakes is the sports podcast for the sports inept.
Yes, sports podcast for the sports inept. That's what we're going for. Jeremy is our in-house expert, and I think today we're going to be talking about fantasy sports.
Fantasy sports. I'm pretty psyched for today's episode. I'm feeling loose. I'm feeling good. I'm pretty pumped to get into all this.
Yeah, and I know we had a few good audience questions from last time.
We did.
Do you want to?
Should we dive into those right now?
I think so.
I love
think
it.
Keep it fresh.
I love it. Let's hit the ground running. All right. So shout out to Ian Vainberg, who's apparently your roommate.
Apparently my roommate.
Hey, Ian. He asked a great question. Do you want to read this one for us, and I can try to answer as best as I can.
I don't have it open. So
I got you. All right. Ian's question is related to sports betting, which was our last episode. When teams score a meaningless touchdown or field goal at the end of the game to conveniently beat the spread,
okay,
do you think it's done intentionally either by the players or coaches with betting in mind? So if a team knows that they're out of it, are they going to keep playing hard to try to cover a spread?
Yes.
And maybe make some bettors unhappy?
Yes. And we talked about this yesterday. I mean, we talked about this last week. There's bad beat, which is when you go out of contention, and then the opposite, which is like putting yourself in contention, is what is it called again?
Backdoor cover.
Backdoor cover.
Yep.
So really he's talking about whether teams backdoor cover or,
pull off a bad beat intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually have no idea.
Okay.
I am not the expert, but I do know that from my understanding, players can't bet at all. That would be like...
That would be illegal. It would be a breach of contract. Even players who bet on games that aren't related to their own, no matter how small it is. There's a player this past year who got suspended for the year. So it's a big, big no-no in sports. You cannot bet.
What about cross sport? Like, can a football player bet on a baseball game?
I think in theory they could. They probably steer clear just to be safe, but I think they probably could.
And then also on the same note, like, you're not vetted when you download DraftKings, right? Like, how does DraftKings know whether a player is actually betting or not?
I don't know. I imagine the league has access to every piece of data they could possibly need. So they all have contracts with the sports books. So the sports books probably tell them, like, we'll alert you if one of your players is betting. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
But in terms of this question, I've heard this discussed before. I don't think most players or coaches are aware of the specific bet that's on the line when they're beating it. Like, I don't think they always know how much they are favored or not favored by. I could be totally wrong. They could all use it as fuel if they're an underdog. I'm not really sure, but I would bet that they're not as focused on it.
Yeah, that must be true. But like, you open up the ESPN app, and like underneath the game and the time and where it's being shown is the over under, right? Like,
yeah,
it's hard to miss.
Yeah, that's true. It's hard to miss, and these players will use anything for motivation. So maybe they are aware. I'd be surprised if it happened often where players were like, "Ooh, I'm going to score a touchdown here. Or I'm going to take a last-second layup just so that I can screw over some bettors." But I guess it wouldn't be.
It could happen.
It could happen. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good question, Ian. So thanks for submitting that.
Yeah.
Another question from Ian, which was really a good one, is what's the weirdest prop bet that you have bet on?
Oh.
And I have a friend from college, Jojo Himmelman, who's got the inside scoop on how long the national anthem is.
How does he have?
He has a friend who works for the NFL.
Okay.
And maybe I'm exposing here, but
I think I know who it is. So
I don't know. But he has
Okay.
a friend who works for the NFL who's pretty much there for like the previews and the practice runs of the national anthem. So he really has like the practice times. So Jojo always will disseminate the times to everyone in our frat, at least when we were students, and like we would always like just pound that line.
Did it ever lose?
I don't think it ever lost. I didn't bet much on it, but like people were like throwing money at this.
Wow.
And yeah, it like always hit. So
that's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy.
I've heard stories like that before, but the fact that it's someone who you know,
yeah,
and they're getting like an inside tip,
yeah,
that's kind of wild.
It's probably
Jojo.
illegal.
I know Jojo.
Yeah,
Jojo's
you're
friend.
yeah.
He has not texted me about
well, there you
the
go.
line, so that's upsetting.
Yeah, Jojo, you might need to talk to Jeremy.
I have
about
a bone to pick with you, Jojo. That's not okay. Nice.
Okay, well, let's get into it. Fantasy football.
Yeah, let's get into our segment called Training Camp. We're gonna get into all the things you need to know, the little nitty gritty about fantasy football. But first, Ethan, do you want to tell us who our sponsor is?
Yes, our sponsor for today is the Yachts noise suppressor. Does your partner scream at the TV during a big game? Does it wake up the neighbors or your children? Yachts is a diagnosable condition which stands for yelling at the TV screaming. Doctors across the world have seen an uptick in yachts in recent months. The Yachts noise suppressor is the first white noise machine which syncs to your TV and automatically turns on during a big game. Sync it to your favorite team's schedule or all games. It will effectively drown out all yelling and allow you the pleasure of screaming to your heart's desire. The Yachts noise suppressor. Never start yelling. Never stop yelling. Start buying.
Is this a real product?
No, this is not a real product.
Okay.
I made that up.
How in the world did you make that up? That whole thing?
Well, I made up that whole thing. Although I have a close friend, Danny Kahn, who actually suffers from yachts during big Michigan basketball games, and he'll just be like standing up, screaming his head off at the TV.
Unbelievable.
So I think that he could actually benefit from the Yachts noise suppressor.
The Yachts? No, that's impressive. You should be a copywriter.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
Maybe I should be.
Wow, sweet. So let's get into it. Training camp this week. Fantasy sports. Okay. We're going to go pretty high level here. Fantasy sports are basically a way for people to enjoy the game a bit differently. Every sport, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, other sports as well, has a fantasy sport component that you can play. The way that it works is you join the league with a bunch of friends or maybe people you don't know sometimes, and essentially you draft players. So you go in order and everyone drafts a team of players in different positions. And what you're trying to do is build the best team. And what the best team means is the players who are going to get you the most points so that you win your matchups every week, so that you make the fantasy playoffs. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talk about that.
Yes.
And so that ultimately you can win your fantasy league. And the way you do that is just by winning all your playoff rounds, scoring more points than the other team that you're playing. And there's usually a prize. I'm in a couple leagues that are for money. The buy-in can vary depending on how much your friends want to spend on it, how confident they are in their fantasy abilities. But that is the very, very basics. And before we get into the points, wanted to see what
that makes sense.
Questions.
I'm more familiar with the punishments.
Okay.
I watched the show The League, which
Yes.
is all about fantasy sports, and I didn't really retain any of it, but I do know the punishments were atrocious.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that for sure. That is a key element of a lot of fantasy leagues and a key element of why people don't want to lose their fantasy leagues.
Yes.
So I'll use football as an example because sometimes you'll see a friend rooting for a player who is not on their favorite team at a point in the game where it does not matter, and you'll be like, why do you care about this? The reason is fantasy sports, and there are a lot of people who play fantasy sports.
Yeah.
So essentially how that works is everything you do in a sporting game as a player gets you fantasy points. So, for example, if you are a basketball player and you score 20 points in a game, that is equal to a certain number of fantasy points.
Okay.
If you are a football player and you catch a touchdown, that is worth a certain number of fantasy points. And essentially, your team is competing against the team you're playing, and whoever scores more points gets the win. It's honestly very simple.
Mm-hmm.
The way the points work is different in every league, but typically for football, a touchdown is worth 6, the same way it is in the actual game. But there really isn't a whole lot to it. You just play who you're playing each week. The nuance in fantasy is that there's usually a lot of trash talking, and you have multiple players who you can start in one position, and you have to choose who you think is the best one based on the matchups. But honestly, for me, fantasy is just a way to keep in touch with friends.
Yep.
Friends who I've been doing fantasy leagues with since we were in middle school or high school. So really, it's a good way to keep in touch and stay up to date on
Stay
people's
relevant
lives.
on what's going on with people's lives.
Yeah.
So a few questions.
Yeah.
Can players lose points?
Yes. If you, in football, for example, fumble the ball, that's usually -2 points. If you have a quarterback and they throw an interception, also usually -2 points.
Yep.
In some leagues, if you have a kicker who misses a kick, relevant to the Bills-Chiefs game, we'll get to that a little bit later on. If you have a kicker who misses a kick, that can also lose you points as well. So, yeah.
Okay. And then I'm just going to throw out questions here because I really have never played fantasy
Let's go
before.
for
And
it.
I have some anecdotes that probably debunk fantasy as a sport.
Okay.
But for field goal takers,
Yeah.
do they get different number of points based on how long the field goal is?
Yes. Great question.
Yes.
They do. Usually it's in 10-yard increments. So the further the field goal, let's say it's 30 to 39 yards, you get 3 points. Let's say if it's 40 to 49, 4, 50 to 59, 5, and then 60 plus, you'd probably get 6.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And then is there anything subjective that you can get points for? Like, let's say Travis Kelce's wearing like a new sweater that Taylor gave him. Like, is that going to give him a couple extra points or no? No way.
No, he might play better.
He might play
get
better.
you extra points, but no, not going to get you points on the field.
Okay, and then I hear a lot about fantasy. You know, it's like the draft, and then it's like how your team works together. I mean, you're drafting a team, and that team, usually, I played Ultimate Team, FIFA Ultimate Team, and, you know, they have chemistry. There's team chemistry. The closer you get to 100, the better your team works together. Is there any such thing in fantasy sports?
If you're a rational person, no.
Okay.
No. But I would imagine a lot of people like the vibe of their team. Or they think their team has
juju.
chemistry. Yeah, exactly. They're like, this guy got injured, really bad for team vibes.
Yeah.
So I think you need to be a little nutty for that.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm going to say no.
Okay. And how, like, does it allow you to stay relevant in friends' lives, just generally? Like, is this, like, a great way to just, you know, bicker and banter with friends from high school?
100%. I just joined a fantasy football league this past year with friends from high school, some of whom I hadn't really been in touch with, some of whom have moved to different places, and everyone just reverts back to their high school self.
That's so funny.
The group chat, it's just a lot of people ripping on each other and just good bits and banter. So, yeah, for me, it's a great way to keep in touch. I'm in another league I've been in for 15 years, and it's with all the guys who I grew up with.
Nice.
So, yeah, I think it's a great way to keep
Do they
in touch
sort of
with
feel
people.
like work relationships where you can't, like, extend conversation outside of sports talk?
Sometimes. It feels weird to break the mold a little bit.
Yeah.
When you're, like, talking about, hey, I want to do this trade.
Yeah.
There are trades in fantasy where you can swap players for other players, and it is weird to sometimes be like, we're also friends, so maybe we should.
You can't be so vindictive.
Other things than fantasy. Like, I'll go through a group chat with two other people. We're all trying to work out a trade, and then someone will be like, "So we getting drinks this week?" I'll be like, this
not
is
the
weird.
time, dude.
Not the time. We're trying to wheel and deal." Yeah,
That's very funny.
Wait.
I played one fantasy league in my life.
I was going to ask you about this.
Yeah, so I played one fantasy league. I went to Israel on Ramah's seminar in 2014.
Okay.
It was a lot of different camps that came together and went to Israel together. And then as a way to stay in touch with a lot of the people from different camps, we ran a fantasy league. And I had no idea what I was doing. I auto-drafted, which essentially means the computer picks for you.
Right.
Like,
It
picks
gets
players.
to your turn, and it just, when the clock runs out, it picks.
Yeah, clock's 2 minutes. I didn't select anything. I was actually probably not at my computer at the time, and I got selected a random selection of players, and I ended up winning the league.
You won the league.
I won the league.
Oh, boy.
I have no idea what I won, nor what the loser lost, but it actually... probably for me undermined the knowledge that's required for fantasy sports.
Ooh, there are going to be a lot of people who don't love that story.
Yeah, that's harsh.
I'm kind of one of them. Okay, I like to think that there's a little skill involved. Maybe not a ton, but that's pretty disheartening as someone who like...
Yeah, but also we were 14. So, we weren't... I wouldn't say that like the other players in the league were that talented either or knowledgeable.
True. So you're out on fantasy sports.
I mean, the other reason I'm out, and this is more of a life philosophy, is I think that if I were to be in at this age, it would require a ton of time. It would require a ton of research. It would require, me keeping in touch with like who's doing what on a week-to-week basis. Trades, there's all these things that I feel like I just got a lot going on. You know what I mean?
That's super fair. I would say Orly, my wife, would agree with you. She
Yeah.
would love if fantasy just disappeared.
Yeah.
If I stopped playing fantasy, she's like, why do you need to watch the random game on a Sunday? It's not your team. I'm like, because I have fantasy players.
Because there's like one player.
One guy.
And he's like the punt returner.
And he
or
can
something.
make or break my week.
Exactly. But,
So,
I mean, on that note, whether you're watching or not, he's making or breaking your week, right? Like, the fact that you're watching is not going to give you higher odds of making or breaking your week.
Yes, but I still enjoy watching.
That's fair.
I like
fair.
screaming at the TV. I need that.
You need
that
the
sound
Yachts
device.
noise suppressor,
The
of course.
Yachts, I need that. Okay, so you won your league. You auto-drafted. All right, I guess that happens. If you're playing with other people who aren't paying attention, probably gives you a better chance. But that is possible. The way that the auto-draft works is they just pick each of the different platforms. If you're playing on Yahoo or ESPN or a different app, they have their rankings of how they think the players stack up against each other.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, whoever is number one on the top of that list when it gets to your turn, if you're not online to pick, they'll just pick that person for you.
I see.
So it is still trying to give you a player who's good.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it'll be a position you already have enough of or
So you could be auto drafting only quarterbacks, hypothetically.
you couldn't, because it knows enough in the algorithm not to do that, but you could have all your wide receiver slots filled, and it could pick a receiver who then goes to your bench before you fill up your other positions.
I see.
So, yeah, it's not a perfect system, but it does, I think, try to do its best to give you players. But there are always players every year who, I've gotten burned by in the past who I'm like, I'm never picking them again.
Yeah.
And if I'm not online to draft them, they could end up on my team. And
That's
then I'm
right.
desperately trying to trade them. So.
That's funny. And how many players per team? Like, how many players are you drafting?
Usually you're drafting enough players to fill the actual spots on a team. So you have your quarterback, you have a receiver. Usually each NFL team has one quarterback on the field, 3 receivers, 1, maybe 2 running backs on the field at a time. Usually just 1,
Okay.
but they'll alternate. So you'll have 2 on your team, and then you have a tight end on your team. And some leagues will use a kicker and a defense, and some leagues will not, because in any given week, a kicker could do nothing or could win you your matchup, and it feels kind of dumb for it to be like that. But yeah, every sport is different. Baseball, you're filling every position, and then you have utility positions where it's just leftover guys who you want to fill, and you have a bunch of different pitching spots, and same thing with basketball and hockey as well. It can be, just depends on the league that you're in.
And then, so the other thing is I know different fantasy platforms give different points for different events occurring.
Yeah.
So, like, how does that work exactly?
Yeah, I don't know why they do that. There should just be a uniform system of points. I feel like every league likes to do it differently, and you want to feel some ownership over your league. So like that's why people change it up. But you can edit the settings for almost any of the points in the back end of whatever system you use. So,
Oh, really?
yeah. So
That's
like
cool.
if you wanted it to be, instead of 5 points for, a touchdown, or 6 points for a touchdown, it's 10 points. You could do that.
Yeah.
Most people wouldn't want that, but
Can you get a little bit more customized? Like, we're only allowing trades through weeks 2 through 4?
yeah, you could. There's usually a trade deadline.
Wow.
There's usually a way that players are picked up. So if there's a player who's available in the league, no one picked them, they're what's called on waivers, or they're a free agent.
Okay.
So there's an order that you can pick in. Usually there's like a waiver order. So whoever's in last will get the first pick. And then some leagues will do an auction waivers where you get a certain amount of money. This is actually kind of fun. I think this is like something that's unique about leagues, is you'll get a certain amount of money and you can allocate each week to, I want to pick up this free agent. I only have $100 in my budget, but I really want them. I'm going to put $40 on them. And then you're blind bidding against other people in your
God.
league to pick up that player.
That's crazy.
yeah. So it's fun. There's a lot of strategy involved.
So they say.
So
they say.
you would disagree because you won your league auto
But
drafting.
that's interesting. There's some interesting points there.
Yeah. Nice. So I think now that we've got the basics of fantasy, how you draft, roughly how the lineups are set, and how the player points work, etc. The last note I want to mention there is that you have to set your lineup every week. That's another
Yes.
time-consuming thing.
Yeah.
For baseball, sometimes the leagues are daily, which means you have to set your lineup every day. I did that this past year, and I hated it.
That's crazy.
It was the worst thing ever.
Did you win your league?
I didn't win my league. I didn't even make the playoffs.
Oh, God.
I did it because I wanted to be more knowledgeable, and I wanted to know all the players who were relevant. I'll never do it again. It was
Jeez.
so horrible.
Yeah, that sounds insane.
Yeah, and Orly's going to be thrilled. She's like, "You're not doing that again." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't want to." Yeah, so sometimes it's a really big time commitment as well. Not ideal. Yeah. Okay, so now that we've got the basics, Ethan and I wanted to do a bit of a fantasy draft ourselves. Do you want to introduce what that fantasy draft is?
Yeah, so the fantasy draft that we are going to get into right now, the situation is you live in New York City and you have a bodega on your street, and that's pretty much your go-to bodega.
Okay.
That you're expected that you're going to be getting, a lot of your more impromptu items, like, oh shit, I need Advil. You're gonna get it at that bodega.
Okay.
And what are the 5 essentials you need at that bodega in order to really live a fulfilling life in New York City?
Oh, okay. So I translated this a little differently.
Okay.
I had, this is the only store you have it's basically like an apocalypse except for this one bodega.
This is why I texted you offline to make sure we were aligned.
We're still going to have an interesting draft.
This is great.
And we can't draft the same thing. If you pick something, I can't pick it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that you should start.
Okay, I wanted you to go first.
I can go first.
I got first pick last time.
Okay.
And I have a duo that I want to pick together so that you
Yes.
don't get it.
So I'm actually going to say, so I have a few things, some of which I think you're going to actually say as well. So those I'm going to say first. Like some of the things are a lock on mine, so I'm going to hold those till the end, even though they're very meaningful to me.
So this is another interesting part of a fantasy draft is that you have to keep in mind what you think other people are going to pick, right?
There you go.
So you have to prioritize now. If you think I might steal one of yours, you should move it further up in your list.
Yes. So I'm going to say my very first pick is beer. Is beer an 18-pack of Modelo's, Blue Moons, something simple. I want to lock the category of beer, so I'm going to have that locked in beer, whether all shapes and sizes.
Okay. I feel now that I know your priority there, I'm feeling good.
Okay. Yeah, you're going for like real essentials.
Okay.
Like I need Band-Aids, I need a first aid kit.
Well, I'm not crazy. I didn't think that. All right.
Well, it is apocalyptic, but anyway.
That's true. I mean, Band-Aids could be useful. All right. You got beer. My first 2 picks, this was a no-brainer for me when you gave us this idea. I've got cereal and milk, 1, 2.
Yep.
I could live off cereal and
That's
milk.
fair.
I need nothing else in life. I've got my protein from the milk. Cereal is just super fulfilling. If I had to pick one cereal, Cocoa Pebbles. Okay. That'll get me through the day. Maybe something a little more hearty.
It's not heart healthy, but
Special K with berries. If I
That's
had
good.
to swap one,
Special K with
cereal and
strawberries,
milk.
it's very good.
Cereal and milk.
So, but those
1,
are 2.
2.
Those are 2 different things.
Yes, 2 different things. 1, 2.
So, okay, great. I steered away from food. So
Big mistake.
Maybe a big mistake. My next thing, and I know you need this. So this is big, and I know you didn't even think of it. Chapstick.
Ooh, that's a low blow.
Well, we were commenting the other day, but chapstick, it's a hard world out there, especially in the winter. Chapstick is huge. I mean, the amount of times I'm walking to a random place and like, God, I just got to stop by a bodega and cop some chapstick. It's a lot.
That's also... I have notoriously chapped lips, and I really struggle in the winter. And
I didn't say it.
I pick my lips a lot. Well, you said it to me offline. So
It's true.
Ethan looked at me the other day and was like, dude, you need some chapstick.
Dude, you got some stuff going on.
I've tried to put on before the show.
That's good. It looks good from here.
Thanks, man. Hopefully from the camera, it looks good too. That's a good pick, chapstick.
It's a good pick. Okay, so my next one, another I'd like to say essentials, especially in apocalyptic times, paper towels.
Okay.
Paper towels, they double as TP. You don't need to get them both. A lot of spillage going on. There's so many use cases for paper towels. I think it's great.
Okay.
So yeah, chapstick and paper towels are 2 and 3 for me.
Okay. I'm going to one up you. I think I'm feeling good about this draft. My next pick, my number 3 is wipes. Wipes are super versatile. A, they clean you. B, they clean your place. You can use them to clean the counters, to clean the floor, and obviously they're useful in the bathroom. You don't need toilet paper as a result. You probably don't need paper towels. I love wipes there. It's good.
It's good. I just want a quick caveat. I do want to be clear that you do have running water in your apartment, so I could put water with my paper towels, but not wipes. They're not, sanitization wipes. So.
Correct.
So I think that's fair. That's good.
These wipes are plumber approved. Plumber tested, plumber approved.
Okay.
Yeah. My next pick is going to be toothpaste.
Toothpaste. That's a good pick.
Toothpaste
That's a good pick.
Would be a disaster if every day for the rest of your life you just couldn't brush your teeth. You're just brushing with no toothpaste. That would
completely get it. Again, a great pick for the situation that you've decided.
Yes.
Toothpaste I usually get once every 3 or 4 months. I can usually stop by Dwayne Reed on my way home. But toothpaste in an apocalyptic world, that's perfect.
We only have the corner bodega in
my
world.
Yeah. So my next pick, and this I know is a lock because you don't use it, and it's drip coffee 100%. Drip coffee, just a nice drip coffee, a really big container, a big vat of coffee, and just like that's every morning, like it's just great to have.
Just straight black coffee.
Straight black coffee.
No milk.
No milk?
Oh yeah, you came over the other day. No milk.
No milk.
That was kinda reckless.
Yeah.
I don't drink coffee as you mentioned, so you can have it.
Yeah.
You can have the drip coffee.
And then my last one, there's a lot of close calls. I'll go over them after I pick this last one. I do think that I'm going to go with the Ben & Jerry's ice cream pint.
I considered it.
Yeah, it's a good one. No specific flavor, but if needed, peanut butter cup.
Really?
I'm also a fish food guy. I steer away from chocolate usually, so anything that's like a little... Fish food's great. A little less chocolatey is up my alley. And yeah, I mean, it's a great food. It's a great just like food that you watch Netflix and just eat. You know what I mean?
Your top Ben & Jerry's pick would be peanut butter?
It would be, peanut butter cup to be exact. Because it's got the little Reese's cups in it.
Okay, I've got two
bones
to pick on that. First of all, peanut butter, incredibly overpowering flavor. I love peanut butter, but like in my ice cream, I don't know, personal preference.
Yeah.
The other thing, this might just be a me problem. I don't like hard things to chew on in my ice cream.
That's a hot take because I'm the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, the consistency switch between soft and hard in ice cream is exceptional.
So you like chocolate chips in your ice cream?
I'm not a big chocolate fan, but I like cookie dough in my ice cream.
Cookie dough is very different.
Oh.
I love cookies in my ice cream because they're a little soft. You get a little bit of a chew, but the chocolate chips, they're like too hard to bite
I understand what you're going for. I still disagree, but yeah, point taken.
All right. So that's your fifth pick.
Yeah.
Ben & Jerry's ice cream. My last pick, our drafts were wildly different. I have 3-in-1 Dove hair and body wash.
Wow, great pick.
Essential.
Yeah, a little bit sus. 3-in-1s are always a little sus.
A little bit, but it covers everything.
Yeah, it covers. Yeah,
I don't want to wash my body with shampoo. I don't want to wash my hair with body wash. So the 3-in-1.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
And I can get that at my last pick. I'm feeling good about that.
Yeah, I mean, really, you would survive much faster than me. You would just be a better person to just in a conversation because you would have like your breath would smell good. You would smell okay. I would probably be bedraggled and in shambles.
A little bit. You're not clean in this scenario at all.
Yeah, but I'm munching some Ben & Jerry's. So
and chasing it with beer.
Yeah,
or
coffee.
A good time.
Yeah,
or
I'm
coffee.
wired. I'm wired.
Okay, so your picks were, remind me of them, 1 through 5.
Okay.
This is our fantasy draft of bodega items.
Yeah, and also like keep in mind how they interact with each other because that was part of my pick is like okay, I start my morning with my drip coffee. If I drip, don't worry, I got paper towels.
Okay.
Afternoon comes around, I probably got some chapped lips, put chapstick on, hit my little B&Js, drink a little bit of beer. If I spill, no worries. I got some paper towels. And I'll probably do the same thing for dinner. So I think it's a great day. I think it probably would become a little bit monotonous of a day to continuously eat Ben & Jerry's and drink beer. However, not
a bad day.
Not a bad day, but probably, day 8 or 9, I would be feeling it.
Yeah, you might lose your mind a little.
Yeah.
But
at least I have something to eat.
Yeah,
you're just eating 3-in-1.
Well, I've got cereal and milk.
You got cereal and milk.
As a refresher, I went cereal, number 1 overall. I'm actually going to put 1 as milk, but those were a tandem in my mind. So I've got cereal and milk. I've got wipes, incredibly versatile.
Yep.
Toothpaste, got to keep my mouth clean. I can't go to bed without brushing my teeth.
But you don't have a toothbrush, so you're using your finger.
Well, in my apocalyptic world, I had the toothbrush.
Oh, so you just get to decide what you do and don't have.
Yeah. I had to replenish on certain items.
I see.
But also, worst case scenario, I use my finger with the toothpaste.
True.
Better
camping vibes.
I think better that than having a toothbrush with no toothpaste, but I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
If anyone listening is a dental hygienist, let us know if that's an
please.
absurd take. And then my last pick was 3-in-1 Dove hair and body wash.
That's a good pick.
Yeah. We'll let you guys decide who you think won.
You got any close calls?
I did. I was prepared for you to take a couple of these.
Okay.
So my backup options were garbage bags.
Yeah, I thought about it.
Didn't put it in my top 5 because it wasn't absolutely necessary. Worst case scenario, you throw stuff out the window.
Yeah.
Not a great idea. But next on my list, I had chicken. If you had taken milk, I would have gone chicken. And then last thing I had on my list was Advil.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about you?
I had ATMs.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. I do use bodega ATMs all the time.
Okay.
I did have laundry detergent.
Oh, okay.
I had blue Gatorade, but like, come on.
I thought about blue Gatorade.
Yeah, it's good. It shouldn't take a pick.
And you can get water from the sink. Yeah. That we agreed on in our apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
Look, I'm just going to be washing all my clothes with my wipes. So.
Yeah. At least you got wipes. I did have popcorn, which I thought about, Orville's popcorn. Although I had Pop Secret popcorn last night. I don't know if you know the brand. It's very good. Yeah.
Good popcorn.
Had great popcorn.
Yeah.
I had Arizona iced tea, but that was near the bottom of my close calls. I do love Arizona, but
Arizona's the quintessential bodega item. It's 99 cents. It's just perfect. I usually get the Arnold Palmer. Those are delicious.
Those are good. Those are very good.
Nice.
Okay.
That was a bodega draft.
That was a good draft. That was a good draft.
All right. You guys decide who you think won. I feel pretty good. I think I'm going to survive. I think I'm going to thrive, actually.
You would thrive. You would thrive. You'd be the kingpin. I do actually want to talk about some interesting aspects that I was researching with regards to fantasy. And one of the most interesting parts is what Wikipedia called the complementary industries. So what industries does fantasy bring about? And there are 3 really interesting industries.
So these are ones that grow and develop as a result of fantasy, or they already existed and they flourish as a result?
Probably the former. Okay. Really, like fantasy brought them into existence.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So one, as you probably would guess, is subscription-based information sites, such as RotoWorld, which offer advanced player and data rankings, marketing, pivoted for an informational advantage in the fantasy world.
Cool.
Pretty interesting. Again, part of this whole bit of like requiring extensive knowledge to play fantasy, which I don't really.
I have heard of Roto World. They
Roto
do
World.
have some good stuff on there, but I would not pay for a subscription.
That's good. Yeah. I would be a little nerdy. The other more interesting complementary industry is called fantasy-specific escrow accounts, which is a third party that will hold fantasy money for all of the participants. One such company is called LeagueSafe, and what it does is it pretty much holds the league entry fees in a secure account until the end of the season.
So that gets rid of the need for a commissioner who keeps everyone's money.
Exactly. And who runs away with it.
Oh, yeah. Every league has a commissioner who everyone is like really suspect of. They're like, this guy's going to run away with my money.
Yeah. You just like don't hear from him. It's like crickets from his side of the phone.
Yeah. You're like, hey, I
not
won.
posting in the group chat.
Where's my $500?
Yeah. It's like if he doesn't respond in 20 minutes, you're like, all right, something's up.
That's interesting. Okay.
And then the last one, which I found pretty funny, is specific legal firms which offer the ability to have disputes between players, and they offer an arbitration. So they'll pretty much take both players and their arguments and be the arbiter and determine who actually wins. I guess these must be used in more controversial decisions that the league makes, or maybe trade deadlines on, weird decisions that people can't agree on fantasy leagues. They'll go to like a third party to help resolve the conflict.
What?
Yeah.
Are these lawyers?
I don't know. I don't know if they're real lawyers. I hope not. Or maybe it's, some side money type
Like,
thing.
could I do this? Could I just be a...
I mean, you could definitely market yourself as doing this. I don't know if anyone would choose you, but maybe. I mean, the sport.
I could be a non-biased third party.
You sure could.
Why not?
I just, I don't even know how many leagues need this type of stuff, right? If
Probably
it's like
a
a
lot.
$5, well, but if it's like a $5 buy-in, like, are you gonna like hire like a, $300 per hour arbiter for your?
No, you're right. You're right. You're 100% right. I am not in any high roller leagues, but I'm sure there are people who are putting thousands and thousands of dollars on their fantasy leagues. So maybe it's worth it for them.
Maybe it's worth it. It probably is. And your league was only $10 per person.
So one of my leagues was 20 a person. One of my leagues was 100 a person.
Wow. And how many people are in each league?
Usually about 12.
Okay.
Yeah. So $1,200 on the line. Not bad. The winner usually gets like 80%. Second place gets their money back, and then a couple other payouts here and there.
Nice.
But yeah, we don't need escrow. We're adults,
you don't need
for
it.
the most part.
For the most part.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So those are three industries that make money off of the existence of fantasy sports.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Huh. Sports are wild.
Sports are wild. The other interesting thing about fantasy, do you watch The Bachelor?
I've watched before. It's not
Okay.
my favorite show.
Yeah, I do watch it a good amount.
Okay. Do you watch with Sarah?
I don't watch much with Sarah, but she's big into reality TV.
Okay, you're just watching on your own time.
I more keep up with it. I'm not watching by myself.
I don't mean to call you out.
Yeah, don't expose me here, okay? But there's a huge Bachelor fantasy league. I don't know if you've heard of this.
I have heard about this.
So for any of you who still don't understand fantasy, I'm going to break it down a little Bachelor style. So The Bachelor, for those who don't know what The Bachelor is, and I'm going to botch this probably, but Bachelor specifically is one male who's choosing from amongst 30 females, and they have to, earn his heart through a week-over-week process, and every week he decides a certain number of them that continue to the next week until there's one left.
Yeah. Look, we may not have a ton of faith in our audience to know sports, but I feel pretty good that they know The Bachelor.
They know The Bachelor.
This is gonna resonate.
Yeah, they know The Bachelor, and then the last two get a hometown date. So if you're one of the final two or three, then he's coming to your hometown, meeting your family. But there's a huge draft before The Bachelor starts on the 3 women who you want to pick as going far.
Ooh,
and the draft actually occurs after the first episode of The Bachelor, so you get a little bit of insight into who you want to draft.
Before they eliminate anyone?
I think before they eliminate anyone.
But you get a feel for
who's got the charisma.
Okay.
And from those 3, you can, I believe, pick up people on the waiver if no one picks certain women.
Ooh.
And then also there is a bachelorette, to be clear. So the bachelorette is a woman picking 30 males. But for the sake of this, we'll be talking about the Bachelor. And then there's a scoring system. So you pick three females, and every time they kiss, it's 5 points.
Whoa.
Every time they make out, it's 2 points. Every time they get a rose, it's 10 points. Enter a hot tub, 4 points. I'll go over some of the more interesting ones.
So if they kiss, it's 5. If they make out, it's 2?
If they make out, it's 2 extra to a kiss score.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
So a little smooch is 5, a little extra
is
7.
Exactly.
Oh, all right.
If they experience local culture, it's 4 points. If they tell the Bachelor or Bachelorette you see a future with him or her, it's 5 points.
Wow.
Every time they say vulnerable, it's 3 points. So
who's coming up with a scoring system?
I don't know. This is actually The Verge, so reputable source.
Oh yeah.
If they require medical attention, it's 10 points.
Who's keeping track?
I don't know. I think it's a group effort. Like as you're watching, it's like okay, like yeah, they require medical attention.
Okay. So you're watching this presumably with the people you draft with, right?
Yes,
it just
exactly.
makes The Bachelor way more interesting.
It makes The Bachelor way more interesting, very much like it makes football way more interesting to watch.
There you go.
And the reason I asked you if there's more like subjective scoring, like if Taylor Swift gives Travis Kelce some, random shirt to wear, because a lot of this is subjective. Is like, okay, be obviously drunk, 5 points. Like, how can you, that's going to be a conflict. There's going to be some contention.
A loose personality.
Yeah. Like, I can imagine watching with friends and be like, they're obviously drunk. And my friend's like, they're not. They're just acting goofy, Okay. So I think fantasy football scoring is a lot more cut and dry.
Yes.
Anyway, this is interesting. So
that's fun. Okay. If there was a way to get me into The Bachelor or Bachelorette, this would be it.
This would be it.
And by that same token, if you guys want to get into sports, fantasy sports would be the way to do it.
Yeah.
I had Orly draft with me this year, and she suddenly started caring about random players on random teams. Worked out okay.
Worked out okay.
Wow, I like
and then
that.
Also, I don't know if you have stats on this, but like the people who watch fantasy, they watch like 3 hours more of football a week or like something like this.
So I don't know the exact number for people who do fantasy leagues, but I know that people who are considered, I think the word is avid watchers. I don't know the exact word they used in this article that I saw, but these are people who watch like hardcore. They watch an average of at least 3 hours of football a week. So they're like glued to their TV for a good portion of the football day. Most people that I know who watch football pretty intensely, if they have plans, obviously they'll prioritize their plans. But like I'll sit in front of the TV for 6 hours and watch football.
That's crazy.
If I can.
Yeah, I will say I tried to do that, actually, that whole football watching in front of the TV on, I think Saturday was a big game. It was a back-to-back game. Or like their games back to back, and I couldn't get through more than a couple quarters. Besides, I was getting itchy. I was getting like antsy.
And you're like, well, you want to get up and leave. If you were playing fantasy, you'd be more tied to it.
Yeah.
Also, excuse my English, everyone. It's tough sometimes to find your words on a podcast. So I meant to say avid watchers.
Avid. Yeah.
Avid, I don't think is a word.
Yeah,
so
it's okay. I've botched a couple words.
Please excuse me.
Yeah. Very cool.
Anything else from you on the fantasy world?
Little bit. So, do you know where fantasy started?
I do not.
Fantasy started actually in the late 1880s, but really came into more prominent existence in the 1930s with parlor games. Ooh, so they were games that you played like at bars, sort of like Monopoly. It first started as a wooden board where you rolled dice, and it was baseball themed. So there were 2 teams, there were 9 innings, and you rolled dice, and depending on the outcome of the dice, you would get a single, double, triple, or home run, and vice versa, you would get an out. And pretty interesting. People, I think, posted up in bars and just rolled die and played fantasy baseball. I think it was called Sterling Parlor Games. So interesting stuff.
Any way to keep people entertained.
Any way to keep people entertained and keep buying beer.
Buying beer, taking people's money.
Yeah, that's why they give out popcorn at bars. Have you heard of this?
Because it keeps you thirsty?
Yeah, you get really thirsty.
So smart.
So smart. So smart.
It's all a scheme.
Yeah.
All right, should we get into Hold My Beer?
Let's get into Hold My Beer.
All right. Hold My Beer this week, everyone, is sponsored by AA Batteries. I had to run out and get AA batteries because our audio recorder was out. Thankfully, you were a little late.
I was a little late.
No shade. Again, appreciate you making the trip.
Of course.
But AA batteries are the reason you guys can hear Ethan's lovely voice. So shout out AA batteries. Okay, so we've got 3 quick topics I want to cover this week in Hold My Beer. As a reminder, guys, Hold My Beer is what you need to know to be up to date on sports, what's going on in the sports world. If you go out and people are talking about it, you can be like, yeah, I know what's going on. Okay, so we'll start with the NFL playoffs. As a reminder, we had a couple of big games last week. It was the divisional round, and the main game I want to talk about.
What does divisional round mean?
Divisional round means the quarterfinals, essentially.
Which means there are 8 teams left.
Correct, 8 teams left. So now that the divisional round is over, we are up to the conference championship, which means the 2 teams from the AFC play each other, the 2 teams from the NFC play each other, and the winners play
4
in the
teams
Super
left.
Bowl.
That's it.
4 teams left. The teams left are the Chiefs and the Ravens.
Okay.
They play in Baltimore at 3 o'clock Eastern on Sunday.
And that's on the AFC side?
Correct.
Okay.
AFC. And then the NFC, which is the National Football Conference, AFC is American Football Conference. I don't know why they called them that. The NFC game is the Lions at the 49ers in San Francisco, and that is at 6:30 p.m. Eastern.
Big ticket games
on Sunday. Big ticket games. Chiefs-Ravens is going to be an awesome game. Lions-Niners is also going to be a really great game. I'm very, very excited for both of these. The Chiefs-Bills game last week, told you it was going to be a good one. It was awesome. The Bills missed a field goal with
not too long either.
A minute and a half left in the game, I think. It was a 41-yard field goal.
That's
I said on our first football episode that being a kicker is the worst job in football because you can only do wrong. And I feel kind of bad. The guy Tyler Bass missed the field goal. And
yeah, he probably
the city of Buffalo is actually kind of cool, though. They know that being a kicker is a little rough. They pooled together a GoFundMe for his charity that he has set up, and they raised a ton of money for it to show him some love and support. So that's pretty cool out of the city of Buffalo, but tough for him. I'm sure he's still beating himself up over it. And fun fact about the Chiefs-Bills game, it averaged 50.4 million viewers, which is the most all-time for the divisional round of the playoffs.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Unbelievable.
Nice.
Yeah. And then the Lions 49ers, just some fun facts here. This is the first time since 1991 that the Lions are in the semifinal, the conference championship game. They have never been to a Super Bowl.
Wow.
So this is a really, really big game for Detroit. For the Lions, should be very exciting. And the 49ers have been a powerhouse since the league started. Yeah. They've been very good as of late. So that should be a very fun game.
What's the line on that game?
I actually have it pulled up. The line on the Niners-Lions game is the 49ers -7. Okay. Do a quick refresher of what that means.
49ers are expected to win by 7.
Exactly, which means the Lions are +7. The Ravens-Chiefs game. Do you want to guess the line? That could be a fun thing to do.
That could be a fun thing. I know the Ravens are good. Yeah. I know that they are, some say, the best team in the NFL right now. Who are they playing again?
They are playing the Chiefs.
The Chiefs. The Chiefs are also good.
Reminder, they have Travis Kelce.
They have
Patrick Mahomes.
They won last year.
They just beat the Bills.
But they won the
Yes, they won the Super Bowl last year.
Okay.
My bad, yeah.
No, that's okay. I wasn't clear. I'm going to say Ravens -4.
Dude, let's go.
Let's go, baby.
Gave Ethan a fist bump for those of you listening only. The Ravens are -3.5.
Wow, there
Look
you
at
go.
You.
That's what's up. That's
you
what's
could
up.
Be an odds maker.
I could be. Nice.
Yeah, good guess. The Ravens have, I would say the name you need to know for them is Lamar Jackson. He is their quarterback. He is likely going to win the MVP this year, Most Valuable Player Award.
Nice.
But they have had their playoff struggles. So the Chiefs have been there, done that. People are thinking, their experience is going to come into play. I think the Ravens are the better team, so I do think they will win. But that should be a fun game for sure. I wanted to get into 2 quick other things going on in the sports world. These are just fun facts, fun little anecdotes if you want to tell people about. In the world of golf, this guy, Nick Dunlap, became the first amateur to win a PGA tournament since 1991. Now, what does amateur mean? It means a player who has not turned professional. Usually, it's a player who's still in college. This guy, Nick Dunlap, is a sophomore at Alabama, and he won a professional tournament.
Wow.
Now, where that gets interesting is because he is still an amateur and has not declared himself a pro.
He's not paid.
He cannot get paid.
That's crazy.
He misses out. He cannot accept the $1.5 million first place prize, which is so sad and so crazy.
So where does it go?
It gets distributed to the remaining players. So the guy who came in second place gets the first place prize money.
Okay, all right, ridiculous question, but what if he dropped out of school like hours before he won?
I don't think he can do that. It's a good question. I don't think that's allowed.
That's fair.
But yeah, just insane.
Nick Dunlap.
Yeah, stinks for. I mean, amazing that he won. I'm sure he's still thrilled. Sophomore in college. He's 20 years old. Won a professional tournament.
Stories like this make me feel real old.
I know. And he couldn't win $1.5 million. If he had won 1.5, I'd feel really old.
Yeah, true.
A lot of money to make in 4 days.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, another fun fact here. This is the last one we've got for Hold My Beer. Soccer is relevant in America.
So they say.
Why is that? Because the U.S., for the first time since 1994, and that was the first time they ever got this, they will host the World Cup final in 2026.
Wow.
Yeah. So the U.S. won a bid for the World Cup final. They're going to host it in 2026, And the city of Dallas and the city of New York are now fighting over who is going to host the game.
Wow.
So they are each making their pitch to FIFA for who should host it and why. New York is making the pitch. The game is actually, if it's in New York, is going to be in New Jersey.
It seems like a no-brainer. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, what is there to do in Dallas? New York.
I don't know.
Well, where would the game be hosted in New York?
So it would actually be hosted at the Giants and Jets Stadium, MetLife Stadium in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Most
Not
people,
as fun.
A lot of people don't know that if you're a big football
Madison
fan.
Square Garden would be a different thing. Although
be
they would have
cool.
to retrofit that stadium, I'm sure.
A little bit.
to
And
host
it
a soccer
doesn't
match.
fit nearly as many people as they would want. But yeah, the stadium in New Jersey / the city of New York is trying to expand the field so that it can accommodate a soccer field and the sidelines that they typically have.
Wow.
So yeah, Dallas is building a whole like fan experience area around their stadium where the Cowboys play. They're both really vying hard to
When
get
is it decided? Do
the
you have
World
any
Cup.
idea?
I think the date was February 2nd.
Okay.
Is when FIFA officially decides
That's
on who's
cool.
going to get it. Yeah. So a little bit of soccer news for you.
A little bit of soccer news.
fans
That's great.
out there. All right. I think that's it.
We'll post a poll. Again,
Yeah.
you want to give our
Handles.
our
yeah.
handles.
Yeah. Thank you guys again for commenting. Don't forget to drop your questions, comments, concerns you may have in the Google form. We've got that. Follow us at @RookieMistakes_pod on TikTok, on Instagram. If you guys want to DM us, if you have any thoughts to share, feel free. We appreciate all the love and support you guys have shown us. So keep that coming. We love you guys for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
All right. Bye, guys.